welcome to another episode of Dial In, the podcast about customer service, automation, AI, contact centers, and everything in between. I'm your host, Gadi Shamia, the CEO and co-founder of Replicant. We automate customer service calls, chats, and other communication at scale for some of the greatest, more customer-aware companies on the planet. And I'm really excited about the guests we have today, because I really love this brand. So we all know UPS. We all know the brown trucks that become cuter and cuter for every year. And we're all really excited about the packages that they deliver for us. Well-loved, well-known brand. And we have Kim Brebner here, that is was a long time executive in UPS that agreed to join our show. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be able to share some of my insights with you today.
So you just recently, 3 minutes ago, retired from UPS after 36 years.
36 years. Yeah, it seems kind of crazy.
Maybe can you summarize your career there in 2 sentences? How did it start? How did it end? What was the big thing in the middle?
Started when I was in college. I took an internship. Like many of us say, we never think that we will stay with the company. We're just looking for something while we're in college. And then boom, 36, 35, 40 years later, we're retiring from the company. I would say one thing, our careers are dynamic there. We get to have multiple careers, which is really exciting. You're not just going into one and have to go to another company. So I've gotten to do a lot of great things, but the things that I've always anchored on is the customer. So very excited to talk about the customer today.
Yeah, and as a UPS customer, I'm excited to talk about too. So we all think we know UPS. It feels like it's pretty straightforward. There's the shippers on one side, companies like Amazon and others. There are us consumers on the other side, and we get the packages somewhere in between. There are drivers, and I'm sure we all assume there's warehouses and distribution centers. But I'm sure it's much more complex than that. So maybe bring us to a bit of the complexity of the business as a whole.
So yes, great engineers behind UPS, looking at finding the best ways to get a package from one destination to the next, but really looking at our customers and understanding what their processes are, what their businesses are all about, and coming up with the right solutions for them. So it would take probably somebody a lot longer than I can spend on it right now, and really my insights, but a lot of folks behind it, putting together the right network, putting together the right services for our customers.
So you have 2 type of customers. You have the consumers who receive, or businesses who receive packages, and you have the people who actually pay you money, which are the shippers. And sometimes, of course, there's cross in between where a consumer can ship a package as well. But when you think about consumers or customers, how do you think differently about the shippers versus the receivers, and what the focus around each one of those groups?
So both of them are our customers. And so when we build solutions, we're making sure that we're addressing and answering, and answering the concerns and the questions for both sides. So we look at all of them. We look at the receivers, the shippers, and I had, positions multiple times where I had the employees. And so I look at them as customers as well.
So why is it important for UPS why do you care about me, the person that opened the door to the UPS driver? I'm not paying you. I'm not your business. Why do you care about me?
Because for us to satisfy the shipper, we need to make sure that we are providing excellent service to that customer, to that receiver. So both parties are just as important in making sure that they're taken care of.
Again, from the layman person perspective, there's UPS, there's FedEx, there's DHL, which is not as common as the US, but very common globally. Tons of local delivery companies. Amazon delivers on their own. It all feels the same. So how do you differentiate? What makes UPS different from both the side of the receiver and the side of the shipper?
I would say, and again, this is Kim after 36 years, it's us understanding what customers need and providing the solutions to them. That's what differentiates us. It's our drivers. I think they're our secret sauce. they take care of our customers, they pick up and deliver, but it's the whole infrastructure behind it that makes sure that we live up to the commitment that we've promised to our customers.
And can you bring us, again, we're outside in looking in, can you bring us or bring some examples of where you do things that you believe are different and create this bond between customers and your brand?
So one thing that we do that I have done before is journey map. So I'm going to take it back to a discipline around the customer service, is that we sit and we bring all different folks together looking at a certain customer persona of that customer and understand all the steps that they go through in purchasing a transportation product, using it, needing help with it, but then taking a look at the infrastructure that's behind it. That's one thing I think we do really, really well, is that we understand what the customer is trying to accomplish at the different phases, and then we understand how our products help them to accomplish what they're trying to do at each one of those stages.
And when you look at the end consumers, I'm going to go to drivers in a second, but when you look at the end consumers, why are they calling you? Look at thinking of customer service. Why do people call you? Where do things go wrong? Where do people need help?
So a lot of the calls and a lot of the transactions that come into us, so I can't even say they're calls anymore. They used to be, but they're not, calls at days, is where's my package? That's probably one of the most, common inquiries we get, is somebody wants to know where their package is, when they can expect their package. And so that's where a lot of transactions happen.
And so these are the things you're trying to automate. I know it's pretty easy. You just click a link today and you can see where the package is. What are some of the more complex issues that your customers are facing and really need now more attention from a person that can investigate and resolve an issue?
So it's when, something doesn't go right. And when I look at it, that always is going to happen in any company. Unfortunately, something's not maybe going to go as what you'd hope. So you need somebody, if you can't see it within the system, within the tracking system, that you would need somebody there to investigate, really try to understand what might have happened to the package. Or, we have situations where somebody has shipped a package and everything's gone perfect, but for whatever reason, they need something done differently. So, somebody could be calling us to redirect that package to a different location.
And maybe make it a bit funnier. Any strange customer service call you can think of, something that will be like, oh, somebody was trying to ship an elephant, or whatever thing is that end up being just an interesting case. 'Cause I'm sure your business is moving from the tall vanilla, I'm ordering toothpaste on Amazon, to somebody's trying to ship a box full of snakes. Who knows?
Yeah, I think, and that goes back to, the beginning when I was an account executive. I had a customer out in Tillamook, Oregon, that shipped flies. And it was because they needed live bait for different animals. So that was probably the oddest calls that I've ever had to deal with, is the flies.
What was complex about shipping flies?
Just making sure they got there on time, right? There's a certain period of time that they were alive. And so working through that to understand, making sure the right product was shipped at the right time.
That's interesting. I think flies have a few days of flap spam, so shipping them, you definitely need to overnight them before they. I actually learned some. I think it's a random fact that you can still use USPS to ship chicks. Like, you can actually ship chicken via USPS. It's like an old rule that stayed on the book. So if you wanna have some chicken to ship, you can do it with USPS. That's completely random fact I stumbled upon a few years ago. I want to talk about drivers also, because you mentioned drivers multiple times. I kind of have my own personal experience with the driver that kind of run our route, and I met him several times. He was super friendly. He has treats in his pocket for the dog, so we chit chat every time he comes and needs a signature. And then the driver tells me, I just want to say goodbye. I'm retiring in 3 months. I said, what? A, he looks like he's 30, and I didn't understand how he can retire. B, I didn't understand how he can retire. Eventually he was 54, but how can retire after being a driver in what we think of as a as a menial job, and you can make a good enough living to be able to retire 10, 12 years ahead of retirement age. So what is the secret sauce with drivers? Like, how do you hire for this profile you want? How do you treat them in a way that they're willing to go and interact with people, and not just run around trying to kind of meet a quota?
Definitely, as you and I were speaking with earlier, they're definitely the secret sauce. I think, they understand the customers. They really build the relationships with their customers, whether it be the shipper or the receiver. And I think it's that mindset that we've got just great folks. Many of them have started, in the hubs, sorting packages, loading the package cars before they became drivers. But I think it's that running it as a business, they see their routes as their business, and they take care of the customers just as if it were their business.
I know you did some international work in places like India, Colombia, Egypt. Tell us a bit more about what was UPS doing in all these countries, and maybe your personal experiences working in countries that most people maybe get there as visitors, but most will never will.
Yeah. So UPS, services and has packages going to over 220 countries. But really, the expansion of the countries that you talked about was around our US network. As a customer service network, we have globalized, we have regionalized our support. And so in the 20 years, we have found partners, we have found different areas across the globe that we leverage the resources there to support our customers in the US.
And how do you choose these places? Like places like India, Egypt, Colombia. How do you choose the places to expand to and to provide service from? And maybe what have you learned about different cultures there and how they treat customer service differently?
So it's pretty extensive. We look at all different aspects when we're going into a different area, the availability of resources, the infrastructure from a communication perspective, the ability to continue to staff, up and coming, areas. We look at different vendors. Sometimes we team up with strategic partners where we go into the different countries. They may already be established in one of those countries. So there's multiple dimensions that we leverage when we're selecting an area that we go to.
And have you noticed differences between service employees in different countries when it comes to attitude? Are people more, some cultures are more more amenable for better service, some are not, or you pretty much seen that once you hire the right team, they all just do the right things?
There is definitely cultural, differences. There is definitely cultures where there is ingrained the desire to serve. There is ones that will want to do everything possible for the customers. There's some that are very patient, so definitely different countries have a culture that definitely align with doing excellent customer support.
And do you think if I'm now sitting in a global position looking to expand, would you recommend looking at culture as a consideration for where to expand customer service, or at the end it's all trainable?
No, I think you absolutely need to look at the culture and be just conscious of it, right? I remember when we were in a couple of countries, and the United States has a lot of sarcasm. So customers calling in when they're not happy, they will say things. And if you don't know that they're being sarcastic, you can inappropriately respond to it. So we've learned very early in the evolution of the global support of training on the sarcasms that were coming out of America, just to make sure, whether it be a person or even a technology, making sure that you were appropriately responding to that sarcasm. I would think that was one of the things that we had to learn in the very beginning.
That's fascinating. I think I actually remember a conversation with German colleagues. I work at SAP, and I use with friends a lot of deadpan humor and sarcasm. And one time I just being sarcastic, and my German colleague looked at me and said, "What is it?" And I explained. I said, "Why do you need to speak this way?" He was. I remember him being surprised that this is even a way people communicate, because you're saying words but you don't mean them. Why do you do that?
Right.
And this is a person, if I remember correctly, with a PhD, super educated, speaks fluent English. Culturally, he didn't understand why I need to use sarcasm, and if I say things I don't mean, why do I do that? And I said, oh, how do I explain that to someone? I don't know why I do that. It's so
Yeah.
complex to explain. It's how we talk. And I think it's the same where I grew up in Israel. So it's fascinating you bring it up. You mentioned training, but you mentioned technology. Is there any technology that helps with things like this? Like what is it? What's a good example?
So when I'm thinking of technology, I'm thinking of, there's a lot of different tools where you're speaking and doing the natural language, and they're, determining, you're using it to determine a solution for the customer. If you can't, I guess, program in simple terms, sarcasm, and be able to identify change in tones and so forth, then you could have a solution in place that could be just as damaging as somebody, or a live representative not responding appropriately to the sarcasm. So that's where I'm
Mhm.
saying you need
Yeah.
to be able to make sure that you can tune in to both of those.
Yeah, I have. It's really interesting to think about it. I had a conversation with a customer that um, sell barbecues and grills, and they moved their customer service to the Philippines and realized that there's no barbecue culture there. So when agents there knew that were explaining what a barbecue is, but didn't even understand the culture around barbecue in this country, and how connected it is to our holidays, and how connected it is to the weekend culture in certain places. And it was definitely not a great experience for customers that used to speak with their contact center in Nashville, where
Mhm.
barbecue is what you eat for breakfast, and then moved to speak with people in the Philippines that were trying hard, but didn't really think of it as any different than this weird food Americans eat. So that's an
Yep.
interesting point here.
We
Anything
had
else that
that.
comes to mind?
We had that with like delivering, right? Driver releasing. What does that mean? Driver release, having a garage, leaving at the garage. So you very much need to understand I call it the lifestyle, but what's the uniqueness, what's similar and what's different, so that when you have your representatives, assisting those customers, that they have a better opportunity to relate. The other cultural piece that he would work through is, there's some cultures where folks don't want to say no, and don't want to give bad news if bad news needs to be delivered, and so you don't want to overpromise. So if you have a culture where everybody will say okay, 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 the customer may think that what is going to be done is what they've asked for, when in fact maybe that wouldn't have been the case. So that's another cultural thing that we have had to work with.
So in retrospect, and it's not necessarily only on the UPS. If you think of it now as an expert, does it worth it for companies to take customer service, move it to countries where you have this big gap between how we consume, how we think, how we operate as American consumers, and how these cultures operate? Is it in retrospect the money saved by going offshore? Um, do you think, would you recommend it as a key strategy for companies today?
So it definitely is a strategy that's been very beneficial for us. There's the right time to do it. So any company really has to, again, go back to understanding their customers, understanding their journey, what they're trying to accomplish, and understanding if the fit is right. But I've have interacted with many of our folks across the globe, and the passion that they have for our customers and the desire to serve is extremely beneficial. So again, I go back to, you have to really weigh what you're trying to accomplish, and is it the right fit?
Mhm. And on your LinkedIn, I saw that you drove a lot of efficiencies in at UPS and help exceeding SLAs and service SLAs through technology and processes. What are some of the things that worked really well, and maybe what are one or two things you tried that made a lot of sense but did not move the needle?
Yeah. So what worked really well, and where I always really take some of my teams, is going back to the basics. So it's really understanding the process and making sure that your processes are solid, that you've got solid training, that enables somebody to learn the job, that you interact with your representatives in your front line, you empower them so that they can surface uh, opportunities or things that need to be refined. But really making sure that you're looking at your work, at the business, you've got the KPIs so you know what good is. You make sure that you have those numbers that you can leverage and use, and you analyze them, you discuss them on a regular basis. But it's looking at the multiple dimensions, not only productivity but the quality, the customers, interaction, their perspective of it. But a lot of the efficiencies and so forth, just sometimes, going back to the basics. Everybody's trying real hard, sometimes everybody's running fast, and sometimes you have to just stop and just make sure that the foundation is all set there.
And any specific technology that worked really well? Anything you implement, you can say this thing actually worked really well. Anything that actually did not yield good results? What can people learn from your experience?
Um, if I look back to some of the things that really definitely was game changing for us was the virtual assistant. And I would say as we, continue to refine that, but it's a great balance between having a good engagement with the customer, having it be two ways. IVRs, when I think back in the very beginning, laundry list of things, and you had to speak the company language to make sure
Yeah.
you got to the right spot, right? But I'd see the virtual assistants, it's still very much, there's menus and there's, decision trees in there, but it's more engaging for a customer today. So that is the one that I, was looking back and thinking about that really changed, I would say, the customer support.
Yeah, it's interesting. My technical co-founder used to always say that the reason that his design philosophy around our product was instead of reducing the person to speak in the machine language, elevating the machine to speak in the human language, which is what we've been doing with our product. It's interesting you mentioned speaking the company or training your customers to speak your company language, which sounds natural to you, but probably not to the caller. I often find listening to hundreds of calls that people call our systems across multiple customers, and often it's this moment of hesitation when you ask people, "How can we help you?" And they don't know exactly how to formulate it. And I'm always having this sigh of relief when I hear us getting it right, even though they said
Mm-hmm.
something like it sounds like this and convoluted. And so it's always interesting to see how difficult it is for people to say, "What's wrong with your car?" Like,
Yeah.
my cars are not broken every day. I don't know how to explain exactly what's happening here. How can I help you? I am insurance policy with the new car. Like, we think that customer will have the straight sentence that is
Yes.
exactly what we expect them to hear, mapped into a call flow and a disposition. And the reality, because they do it maybe once a year or twice a year, they don't even know how to say it in a way that makes sense.
Right.
I think that's a huge difference now where AI is today. You don't have to train it now on very narrow set. People just can speak with it naturally.
Yeah. And it's, whatever business you're in, because it's your business, it, right?
Yeah.
The customer doesn't. All they know is that they need help and they want you to help them. So
Yeah. So,
having that
so
be a little bit smoother is better.
So a few more questions before we get into the speed dial, which is always one of my favorite topics. But sir, you're a service company, or UPS is a service company, and as we discussed, there's so many other options for service. Yet you're clearly a market leader. Um, the American economy is a lot around services, yet so many service providers don't understand that customer service is part of their offering and product, and they think they can just phone it in, so to speak. What do you have any insights of what's missing in the understanding of companies that do provide services, not necessarily differentiated, without excellent customer service? What did they miss that you guys got?
So for us, service is, like you said, part of the value proposition. And when a customer purchases something, they purchase the product, but they also purchase how you handle the situation if something doesn't go right. And what I have found over and over and over again, many times when something doesn't go right, it's how you address that is really how they determine what they think about the product or the company, right? So there is times where you could have a problem, but how you take care of it, they'll actually have a better opinion about their service because of how you handle that situation. I think everybody understands nobody's going to always be perfect, but it's how you handle it when something goes wrong is really what, determines that. So that's really been kind of, the mindset for years and years is how do we make sure that we've got customer service, I'm going to say right. And I always used to tell the folks as I had customer experiences, it may not be why somebody purchases us, but let's not have it be the reason why they don't continue to use us.
Oh,
So
that's such a great statement.
So, because everybody gets into revenue generation and so forth. No, I want to make sure that when a salesperson sells the product, we continue to get the product. We don't have that be a reason why somebody wants to go find something else.
Yes, so going along these lines, I love this line of thinking. If I'm a CFO now of a generic service company that maybe have 5 competitors, maybe I'm the new DoorDash Uber Eats competitor out there, or maybe I'm the old one, and I'm the CFO, and I meet you in a cocktail party and ask you, okay, I get it, better customer service is better than worse customer service, but tell me how I know I should invest money there. Have you in the past were able to prove that better customer service increase revenue and retention over time, or it's a belief that you hold that is so engraved in a business that it doesn't need to be proven anymore?
Everybody really, it's intuitive. Better customer service is going to lead to growth. I did have an opportunity in my career to work on customer experience and work to understanding what the value is of customer experience. And that was pivotal for us because we could always look at things from a cost savings perspective, from a revenue generating perspective, but you knew customer experience was the important piece of it, but financially, how important was it? And so that's critical. If I look back to it, is understanding what is the value to it, and then understanding what do you want customer experience to be in your overall strategy, and how does it support your enterprise strategy. Understanding that at a higher level, then it allows you to, if you're responsible for customer service, then understand what do you want to look like when you grow up. What investments do you need to make? What impact or what roles do everybody in the organization play to execute on that strategy? But starting off and understanding at a higher level, I think is critical for continuing to, invest in customer service / customer experience, but understanding what the financial value, it is definitely good for the customer, good for the company, focusing on customer experience.
And my last question for the segment is you're stepping aside from customer service world just as we enter this really exciting era of the next generation of AI with ChatGPT and large language models and generative AI. If you're kind of trying to project in the future, what will be different in 2-3 years in customer service with this technology?
I think some of the sauce people have to figure out is still how do you have that emotional connection to the customer? You can put technology in place and it can be very efficient, but people are still people. And so people still crave that connection and that human interaction. So how do you bring that to life? That to me, I think is going to be interesting. Also, as you have your different tiers of support, customers expect different things at different levels. So you got to make sure that if you have that next level support, that you can do something for them that they haven't already done for themselves. Because if all you have to offer is this first piece and then they get a hold of that, say, person at that next level and you can't do anything else for them, that's going to frustrate them, I think, even more. But hopefully that answers your
Yeah.
question.
And I agree, connecting with customers is a unique human property. And I was actually asked yesterday in an interview, why do we as a company always say we're a thinking machine and not pretending to have a name? And why do we not faking empathy? And this is really easy to fake empathy. Like the words are easy, but we are, as humans, are pretty good understanding what the words mean nothing. So when somebody just tell you have a nice day, the people don't really mean or care if I have a nice day or not, versus a friend of you saying, oh, I see you're going through a difficult issue, a topic. I hope the rest of the day is going to be better. And say, oh, my friend really see me and then can wish for a better day, and I now believe it. You can say the right words if they don't come with meaning, where machines don't have meanings. There are machines at the end programmed to do things. I just don't people wouldn't believe them. And if you don't believe empathy, there's no empathy at all. So let's jump into speed dial. And then
Okay.
this is the fun part where I'm going to ask you a few questions and your only job is to answer in one sentence. So
Oh.
that'll be fun. Which exceptional customer service experience you had lately?
It was with Aetna, and they helped me find a provider for a crown, and they researched it, sent me the information. They did about everything for me, but actually have the crown for me.
That's so amazing to hear, because Aetna is a little bit like UPS. They don't have to serve you. You're just insured. Somebody else is paying for it, and the fact they're willing to go well beyond, earn them a mention publicly.
Yes.
So it's great to hear. Maybe we touched it a little bit, but when you think of the agent of the future, the customer service agent of the future, which personality trait they will need the most?
Listening. I have a couple of them. Listening, problem solving, and still needing to engage and be efficient. But it's the problem solving, because those easy, see, I can't just say something in one sentence because the
It could be a
easy
sentence and a half. We can compromise.
the easy transactions are gone. So they really have to be this investigator.
Mm-hmm. And when you think about measuring customer service teams or companies, what's the number one metric that everybody should watch for?
There's not just one. Everybody wants one, but it's really a balance between productivity or cost, quality, and then that customer perspective. It's the balance. There's no
Mm-hmm.
silver bullet.
So the metrics is the balancing.
Yeah.
So balancing between customer satisfaction, productivity, cost, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, going back to my question about AI, what do you think when 100% is everything should be handled by AI when it comes to customer service, and the other option is zero handled by AI? Where do you land? Where do you think the future? How do you think the future would look like?
I'm in the middle because it really depends upon the situation. So if it's something that's highly personal, I don't want AI to do it. I want that personal piece. If it's transactional or it's not as important, I hate to say, it's decision, then it may be more involved. So I think I'm in the middle. I love it,
Mhm.
but I'm not, I hate to say it, 100% sold on it.
Yeah. And we all think we know customer service agents because we talk with them on the phone, but probably we don't. So you, as someone working in this space for so long, what do you admire the most? Which characteristic you see among many of them that you admire?
Call after call after call, they are willing to serve and try to take care of the customers. And that is a unique individual that has to do that one call after another.
I had a guest here, Mike Milburn. He was the chief customer officer for Social Service Cloud, so knows customers in and out. And he just stopped and said, just imagine you walk into a contact center and there's hundreds of people that take one customer call after the other for a whole day long. Just imagine the thought where we executives end up speaking with customers 3 times a week or 4 times a week. Say, wow, we're really customer focused. We spend a lot of time with customers. Agents sometimes do it 20, 40, 50 times a day, every day of the week. I admire it as well. This resilience is so impressive. What's exciting the most about AI?
The ability to help me solve a problem and direct a customer to a solution faster.
Mm-hmm. And maybe my last question is, anybody you admire in customer service, thought leader that you would love to see on this podcast?
I think it would be important, and it's kind of our conversation. I think we should bring on some agents. I would flip it. So you have all of us decision makers, but I think it would be very interesting to listen to them. What's important to them? How do they feel about all of this that's going on?
I love this idea, and I may follow up with you and ask you to make an introduction. I would love to speak with an agent. Actually, we're in our customer conference Resolve. We're bringing a panel of agents to speak about it too. But I would love to have an agent in the podcast. So it's a great idea. Kim, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for everybody for dialing in. And until next time.
Thank you.